you're telling me it's cool to drink with you, but then the next day you're going to give me the third degree, I'm going to go back to being a recluse and drink alone in my room.
Yep.
Or go do something stupid. Like get in trouble with the Russian mob, which I did. You know, like on Thanksgiving of all times.
Jason LaChance here, a commercial-free version of this conversation. Hey, I want to tell you I've got some exciting news on things that I'm doing, and I'd appreciate you following me there. I am going to be producing and sometimes co-hosting a new podcast that's showing to be very successful, and it's in the same wheelhouse. It's called We're Out of Time with Richard Tate.
The We're Out of Time podcast with Richard Tate, featuring two-time NBA champion Lamar Odom.
You were in a coma, right?
For 3 days. They told me I wasn't even going to talk again, let alone walk.
Musician and social media influencer Andrea Russett.
Oh, yeah.
As of today, 2 weeks.
Star of Netflix Tall Girl Ava Michelle.
The next morning, I found him, and
You found him?
I did find him.
Personal stylist Parker Noriega.
These kind of doctors, majority of the time, are yes doctors.
Ken Kraft, the founder of Hope the Mission.
I had my own broken world experience. I lost everything.
On the We're Out of Time podcast with the man who revolutionized addiction treatment, Richard Tate. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Richard is one of the premier individuals in addiction, treatment, and recovery. And he started the We're Out of Time podcast. I'm producing it. I'm going to be co-hosting. He's had so many amazing guests, celebrities talking about their addiction struggles, recovery, mental health, and so much more. Please give it a follow. The link is in the podcast description, youtube.com/@RichardTate. Or if you're listening to the podcast, search for We're Out of Time, and you'll find the podcast there. And you'll be hearing and seeing me on there, so if you want to remain connected with me, that's the place to do it. Or some of you may know that I do work for PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, a nonprofit helping those and their families through the process of addiction and recovery. And I've included links for all that and the podcast that we do called Don't Hide the Scars down below in the description. And I put my email there as well. I've had so many people reach out through Knockin Doorz Down asking to be connected to services, and that is the best way to get a hold of me, jason@painnonprofit.org. All right, we're going commercial free here on out. Brother, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
AJ here with us.
AJ!
Appreciate
Been
it.
shooting the shit, and fans of the podcast, of course, followed your career. We're roughly the same age, and so how's everything treating you? Obviously, pandemic put not only tour on hold, family stuff.
You know, the pandemic for me was biggest blessing I think I've ever had in my life.
Really?
You know, we were wrapping up our South American leg last March. Yes. We had one last stadium left in Sao Paulo, and the government was like, can't let you do it.
All right.
Things are getting worse. So we flew home on the 13th of March. 3 days later, lockdown. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, my sobriety date is December 18th, 2019. And I, had my one last hurrah in Vegas, of course. For a brief period, I had built up this resentment towards my wife, who I have no business having resentment towards. She has every ounce of reason to have resentment towards me. But I asked her to come with me to see, it was Shania Twain's opening night. She's been a long time friend. And she was back and forth, and I'm like, I think it'd be a great date night. Let's get away from the kids, just one night. And she just wasn't feeling it for whatever reason. So I said, well, I kind of feel obligated to go because I've already said I would go, and she's been to our show multiple times, and that was my demise. Me going solo to Vegas, obviously already on the flight over. I'm texting my dealer, everything is lined up, and per usual, I thought I could sober up by the time I got home, but I never stopped. Mm-hmm. So I smelled like a bar when I got home, and my youngest daughter, both my kids have saved my life, but my youngest daughter was really the one that kind of put the nail in the coffin for me. When I sat down next to her on our living room couch, she normally is all about cuddle time. And she started, and then she backed up and she said, "You don't smell like my dad." And that fucking crushed me. So called up Renee. I said, "Dude, I'm done." He's like, "All right, I've heard this countless times." He's like, a mutual friend of ours was actually celebrating her 3rd birthday. She went back to the sober living that she was at to get her cake. And he said, "Why don't you meet me there? Let's give our friend a cake for her 3 years, and then let's have a chat." And I was still hungover like a son of a bitch, and he could see the desperation, I think, in my eyes. So he said, "All right, well, tomorrow, why don't you come to my house and let's have a conversation, and be there at 6." And I showed up at 5:15. I'm always early to everything. Even when I was hungover, I was the first one downstairs, first one on the bus.
Same.
But
I hate being late.
I can't stand being late.
I hate being
I was not that reliable.
But sidebar, it pissed me off because not all, but some of the bandmates of mine are very late, like very, very rudely late, and they know who they are. Mainly just one, but so not only are they an hour late, but I'm 30 minutes early. So to me, they're an hour and a half late.
Sure.
So anyways, back to, I had stayed sober going back on the road to South America. And I was back in the gym, I was working out, we have a thing on the road called the Breakfast Club, which is, a couple of my bandmates, our security, they go down every morning for breakfast, complimentary breakfast. I was always invited, but I would never show up. Then they stopped inviting me. Now I'm down there every morning, first one down there, "Hey, welcome everybody." And everybody was shocked.
Yeah.
Okay, he's doing good because he's down here every morning. He's in the gym every morning. And so once the lockdown happened, a bunch of friends of mine and I started a Zoom. God, I'm sure we all here wished we had invested in Zoom.
Yeah, no shit.
Before it went public.
That and GameStop.
God. Or Roblox.
Yeah.
I do have shares in Roblox, but not pre-IPO. That was literally impossible.
I'm guessing as a father myself that the kids are on that Roblox
Bill
shit.
Gates couldn't even get in pre-IPO, so what makes me think so we literally, every day since March 16th at 4:30, we have a Zoom meeting. We call ourselves Circle the Wagons.
Nice.
And which ironically was going to be the podcast name.
Really?
Before it became pretty messed up. And for whatever reason, it just, iHeart wasn't sure about it. And, our amazing producer, Amy Sugarman, was like, "I think we can beat it. Keep that for your personal." And I'm like, "All right, cool." Sure. And then I'm the one that came up with Pretty Messed Up, because all three of us are pretty messed up. I mean, look, even though we're sober, you're still pretty messed up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're never going to be your average Joe.
Yeah.
And, but that's what makes us unique.
Yes.
It makes us special.
Yes.
Another sidebar, my wife and I are rewatching Schitt's Creek.
Oh,
show.
I
Love
just
Schitt's
fucking
Creek.
started it.
Love Schitt's
And
Creek.
it's funny, like when you rewatch a show, you pick up things that you never saw.
Oh, yeah.
And Moira had a quote last night that I know for sure I did not hear. When we watched this the first time, I wasn't sober, so that's probably a lot to do with it. I'm really hyper-focusing now.
Yeah.
And she said, "Miracles don't take reservations." And I'm like, I'm getting that tattooed. That is brilliant.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Because, especially in our world, you wait for that miracle.
Yeah.
And that miracle does come if you do what is suggested.
Yeah.
But I love that. Like, miracles don't take reservations.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm getting that inked somehow, some way.
Yeah, that kind of gave me chills. The irony of that, like when you're talking about that, is like for me to end up in this job, I did radio for 20 years and I always had this belief of doing something bigger, and not that I wasn't successful on a smaller scale within that career field, but just something where it felt better in here. Mm-hmm. And then, bumping into like the book we gave you, Carlos Vieira's autobiography, and he kind of told me about that. And, you do these podcast things too. What? Talk to people about sobriety. Like, okay, and here we are, 16 months later, sitting down with you, who's, talking about this stuff.
The thing is, like, when we started the podcast, we started it during the season when I was doing Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
So obviously a lot of our guests were contestants on the show, trying to get the numbers up to just out of the gate. But then once the show was done, we went to what we really wanted to be talking about, which is recovery and mental health. That's mental health to me has always been the elephant in the room, and now it's much more spoken about. It's much more taken seriously now. Where because I try not to watch the news daily because it's never anything good. Unless I'm watching Grandpa Joe, then I'm gonna definitely watch it because I just love that man, and the most amazing vice president. But you read these articles and it's like another mass shooting and da. But the one constant that's in every article, that's in every news broadcast, is so and so suffered from mental health. And at first I was like, are you just throwing that out there to excuse this person's actions, or do you really know what mental health issues really are?
Sure.
And where they stem from? Because a lot of people, I don't think, really understand.
No.
Now, more people are getting educated. Shows like this, shows like our show, are educating people. And that's what I love, is that now it's not the elephant in the room anymore, because it can't be.
Yeah.
There is so many people out there that do struggle with mental health. They don't have to necessarily be addicts. They could be depression. It could be anxiety. It could be body dysmorphia. Whatever it is.
All of it.
That's all mental health.
Yeah.
So, we've been blessed to have some amazing guests on the show. I'm still pissed that Deepak wouldn't tell me my mantra, but it's okay. He did tell Renee back when Renee was with his ex-wife. They all were hanging out, and he whispered in Renee's ear what his mantra is, and we've been best friends for 21 years.
And he still won't fucking tell you?
I'm like, it's not like it's gonna go away if you tell me. Just tell me.
Yeah, Cheryl was giving a shit like, oh, you guys have had some really awesome guests. It's like, fucking so have you guys. Got Deepak on there.
Deepak,
But speaking of when you talk mental health, let's kind of jump back for you because we've really talked about it. We've had some great guests, and especially one lately, a guy I'm sure you'd love to talk to, Dr. Rob Kelly, worked with a lot of people, and trauma as the gateway drug. So my understanding for you is mom, dad separated pretty early on. My dad, addiction, some other things in there too that I know for me, still now at roughly the same age as you, unraveling the shit finally. And, it's like...
for me, I never really dealt with the quote unquote abandonment issues.
Sure, okay.
Because I had a great upbringing. I had, my mom and my grandmother and my grandfather living in a 3-bedroom apartment. My grandmother was my life. She was everything to me. Took me to all my auditions, picked me up from school, introduced me to the Golden Arches. My grandfather worked and my mom worked. And, but I never really asked questions about where's dad, whatever. I saw him once when I was around 12, around Christmas time, and then I didn't see him again until I was around 17. The girl I was dating at the time, so my grandfather would stop by the studio and give me mail, because I had moved out when I was 17. Got in a huge fight with my mom, said I'm moving out, and I moved in with my 15-year-old girlfriend at the time. And our previous manager paid for our, rent, and it was a weird situation. Very, very catch in the cradle, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend at the time took it upon herself to find my dad's home address, because I guess it was child support, something was coming and it wasn't being paid. So she just surprised me one day, and we drove to this random house, and she's like, why don't you go knock on the door? I'm like, where the fuck are we? Like, what are you doing? And sure enough, it was my, dad. And he had been keeping up with my career.
Did you know who he was right away?
I knew.
Yeah.
I think we look more alike than my mom and I, but then again, my mom and I do have a lot of similar features, but I get my balding from my dad, thank you so much. Going for my second hair surgery end of next month. No shame in that, fellas, by the way.
No, dude.
you know, it kind of felt natural at first. And then my stepmom kind of came over the top and was like being really aggressive, like trying to get us to really bond and all this stuff. And she pushed me away. And then she tried to be my mom, and she mentioned something to me on the phone one time, and I was like, you know what? I don't need this shit. I'm out. And then I didn't see my dad again for 15, 20 years. And then he reached out to my now wife on Facebook, and he showed up my third and final time in treatment during family week. And it creeped me out because when we were in family therapy, it was just me and him. And like, we're sitting on the couch. I'm not looking at him. My family therapist starts crying. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I just can't believe what I'm seeing. And I'm like, what are you seeing? She's like, look at yourselves. Every little mannerism was identical. The way we were sitting, the way we were twiddling our freaking shirts, the way we blink. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit differently. No, I'm not going to be you. I'm not going to be you. But, you know, during all these years, in and out of the rooms, any stretch of sobriety, I would start to kind of jump ahead in the steps, you know, to everyone's favorite step, the fourth step.
All right.
And then I would jump ahead to my ninth step a little bit and slowly start making amends, because it's like, you know what? Water under the bridge.
Right.
He didn't directly do anything to me. What happened was between my mom and my dad. I was just in the way, you know. And then my mom and I finally had conversations years later, and she's like, yeah, you know, he did try to reach out. I kept letters from you. We had our arguments. My mom and I didn't speak for a year.
Yeah.
But now everything, like I talk to my dad probably once or twice a month. And things are better.
Yeah.
You know, they're not softball in the front yard. I don't think it's ever going to be that. Plus, I can't throw for shit. But it's definitely better.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the better I get, the better I can see situations for what they are. And I can weed out what I don't need in my life. And I can embrace what I do need in my life. And back to one of the first questions you said, like I said, the pandemic has been my silver lining, because being off the road, not being in those tempting situations,
Sure.
a meeting a day, every day, religiously. I talk to Renee 5-6 times a day, you know, best friend, mentor, has helped me immensely in my recovery. I talk to a lot of my sober buddies daily.
Yeah.
And just being home and being a good husband and being a great father, it's just and finally really doing the work.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm still on my fourth step. I've been on it for a year. I'm getting to it, but I know, you know, Renee suggested to me, which I think is great, and I know he's right. He said, promise yourself that you'll at least get your fourth step done before you go back on tour. Everything will change.
And I could see why he would say that.
So, you know, but the addict in my brain goes, okay, well, I've got till February, so I could start it like mid-December. No, I do want to get it done. I don't want to rush it, but I do want to get it done, because I've never done it. Most people relapse on their fourth step.
You never done your inventory, huh?
Never.
Yeah, for those that may not know the fourth step, it's inventory.
Fearless and moral inventory.
Yep, it's tough.
And like the sex inventory and all of these things, it's just like,
That's a tough one, because for me, I know that was a big area because of what I went through with childhood. Mine does surround a molestation issue, heavy exposure to pornography at an early age, and I had to really kind of take a look and, you know, I've realized that a lot of those things that happened have molded me, and I no longer hate them, though. I've kind of accepted them, and like you said, pretty messed up. Just it's there.
Yeah.
Well, I can relate to what you were saying as far as, you know, you had a great upbringing, it just happened. That was the same with me. My parents were and are great, and I just fell into it. We were just out and about partying. That's what we did. I started drinking at probably like 14, 15, but cocaine hit the scene for me about 18 or 19, because I was be able to get into this bar. A friend of mine was the bouncer, so he'd always let me in, and some guy had it. We were out in the parking lot, and then it just happened. And then when I went to rehab for it, people were like, what are you running from, brother? What are you hiding from? I'm like, nothing. Have you ever done coke? It's a fucking blast. Like, I'm not running from anything. And it's a common misconception that, well, you probably had a rough upbringing, that's why you do drugs. It's like, not necessarily. No. I mean, sometimes for a lot of people, yeah, but for me, no. My parents were great. Taught me everything, but...
You know, Cheryl, I'm sure she told you, like, her trauma with that, you know, she dealt with.
Yeah.
But for me, like same. Like, there was no trauma, really. Okay, the abandonment, fine. That, to me, did not drive me to pick up my first drink or drug. I didn't start drinking until I was 25. Really drinking.
Yeah.
But it grabbed me like a freak hook, line, and sinker.
Hit the ground running.
And, you know, it started with Sambuca, and then drank an entire bottle of that one night on the road, got alcohol poisoning, that was out. And then I found Jack. Jack was my best friend. And even though it was the most disgusting, it's so gross. And I would do it straight. I never do it on the rocks, never chilled, just shot. And chase it with something, but it was that burn, it was that feeling there, and I was like, oh, okay, now I got it. And then an old friend of mine, no longer friends, introduced me to coke the night of our video shoot for the video, The Call. And it was a night shoot, so my call time was like 2:30 in the morning. So he had it, and I was like, I don't know, man. I've heard horror stories. He's like, look, you don't have to, but it's here if you want it. And I'll never forget, I was staying at the L'Hermitage Hotel over off Burton in Beverly Hills. And the keys that they have for the rooms are like a normal key, but it's like the perfect rectangle with grooves. And you just put it in and turn, and it opens your door. And then I'm like, damn, this is like the perfect setup. Like it's wide, it's a good little, you know. So I did one in each nostril, and nothing. I'm like, well, that's uneventful. And I said, should I do more? And he's like, no. You did a lot your first time. Give it a minute. So no sooner do I get in the makeup chair that it hits me. And I'm telling the makeup artist, I'm telling Kevin's wife, I'm like, I'm on fucking blow, guys. It's fucking awesome. What's going on?
Oh, it wasn't a secret then. It was like...
Well, no, I told Kevin's wife, swore her to secrecy.
Got you, okay.
Nobody knew. And once me and Coke became friends, like, I found out that one of my closest buddies back in Florida was a fucking dealer. So I'm like, every day, insane. I fucking OD'd once. It was a straight Pulp Fiction moment, adrenaline needle and all.
Yeah.
Full on deal. It's a long story, I won't get into it. But it was insane to like wake up with a fucking thing in my chest. I was like in my house.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, and you think that would stop me? No.
Right.
But, you know, yeah, it was insane. And I was doing like an 8-ball a day on my own. So my tolerance was insane.
Fucking shit.
And then like most alcoholics, we think, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit drunk. I'm going to do some blow. Now I'm awake, which means I'm sober. No, you're not. You're just more fucked up.
Yeah.
It's like, big misconception.
It's pretty messed up.
It's pretty messed up.
See what I did there?
I like it. But yeah, I literally kept telling myself that I'm sobering up now because I'm alert.
It's that fucking trap up here, right?
Dude.
It's like the shit we tell ourselves.
Yeah, no, that was, like you just said, I'm getting drunk, I need to do a line, because I would never do coke without alcohol. I did it once, and it was a different high. It was weird. I'd always have to have alcohol, but yeah, I was telling Cheryl too, like, yeah, it like sobers you up. Well, it doesn't sober you up, but you feel sobered up, but you just feel like on top of the world, and like you could drink so much more than you could without it, and that was mine.
But then you have to do more blow.
Exactly.
To,
it was a vicious cycle.
Balance you out. Yeah. I mean, I thankfully, when I got sober the first time for like almost 7 years, is when Oxycontin really blew up. And I was an upper guy. Like, I didn't like any kind of downers. I wasn't into, to this day, weed always made me throw up. I could never smoke it. Because sadly, I still smoke cigarettes. So I would smoke a joint like a cigarette, and it would just too much. Yeah. And I'd be like, But it's just crazy to me, like, as we all know, when you relapse, and it's been any length of time, for whatever reason, we pick up where we left off. And when I tried to pick up where I left off with the drugs is when I ended up ODing. So, like, it was
Because that
just-
tolerance drops.
Oh.
Yeah. You think you can handle it, but that's how, a lot of people die when they, relapse, because it's like, well, I used to do this, so I'm going to get back to where I started.
Exactly.
Nope.
I mean, I was a chronic relapser. Countless times I've relapsed. I can't even remember how many times.
Yeah.
But, and my wife, God bless her, she was an Al-Anon, and, she still dabbles with it a little bit, but she understood in the beginning, okay, relapse is kind of part of the deal. That doesn't have to be for everybody, but don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
If you survive it, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on the horse. But when it became an ongoing thing where she would be disappointed, yes, it was the lying about relapsing. I didn't realize when I got off Jack, vodka became my new thing, flavored vodkas.
Huh.
And I didn't realize that I was allergic to potatoes, which I didn't also know make vodka. So we'd be on FaceTime, I'd be on the road, I'd be 3 sheets to the wind, but I could talk normal, thinking I'm getting through and I'm, she's not picking up on any signs, but my whole face would be breaking out and be red. I didn't see this and she didn't tell me because why give me another out?
Yep.
So she's like, okay, so now I'm picking up on this. Maybe tomorrow he'll be honest and he'll tell me. And no, I would lie and lie and lie and cheat and lie and cheat and lie and cheat in my mind,
Yep.
and not physically cheating, let me clarify that. But I would lie because I thought, okay, I'm getting away with it. She didn't yell at me, everything was good.
Yeah.
But then she basically at one point finally hit her boiling point, and like there was a talk of us separating. And even that didn't stop me. And again, it took my daughter. My kids, thankfully though, have never ever seen me drunk, and they never have to.
Thank goodness.
If I can stick this out and do what I'm doing now and keep to it,
Yeah.
they never have to see me drunk.
Yeah, I unfortunately cannot say that. But with that said, it has spawned on, as my kids are on the verge of 13 and 12, and their mother and I have openly talked to them about these things and our downfalls with substances and the bad choices that it's had us make. So we've done what we could to turn it into a positive and a conversation and education, because
I'm doing that now with my oldest. I don't think she really grasps it yet. She's 8, but like the other day, I had this giant glass water bottle in our refrigerator, and I pulled it out and I was drinking it with my breakfast, and she's like, "Daddy, is that alcohol?" And I'm like, "No, babe, it's water." She's like, "But why is it in an alcohol bottle?" I'm like, "Cause so." Right after I explained to her as much as I could about alcohol, we went to Vegas for nationals, the biggest dance competition there is in the States, and because my daughter was in the competition, and she, like, everywhere she looked, there's people with bottles, people with alcohol, and smoking, and alcohol, and smoking. And then she, like, told my wife and I, she's like, "Vegas is gross, I hate it here. All the alcohol, like, everyone's dressed inappropriate." And I'm like, "God, I hope that
Vegas is
sticks."
gross. Vegas is disgusting.
But I hope that she keeps that like, everyone's dressed inappropriate thing. I hope that lasts into her 30s.
You're right, sweetie. Absolutely.
Everything's
it is the
inappropriate.
grossest shit.
Never dress like that. But now it's like she saw a photo. We just finished our Christmas album photo shoot, and because we're doing our very first ever Christmas album. We've never had one in 28 years. And one of the photos of me was in between shots, so my eyes are like, I look whatever. And she goes, "Daddy, are you drunk?" I'm like, "Oh my God, no." I'm like, "Sweetheart, just know, Daddy doesn't drink. Daddy's not going to drink. If God forbid Daddy does drink, he will tell you. So you don't have to freak out and like think anything that's glass is alcohol, or if Daddy's eyes are caught between photos that I'm drunk."
Right.
So
get a sinus attack or some other shit
well, I've
or
got
whatever.
the worst allergies in the world, and like I had surgery for it actually because I had so much blockage, and I don't know. I'm going to attribute a lot of it to the blow.
Sure.
I think definitely helped.
Yeah.
So much blockage that was back to like the back of my skull, and they had to put the balloons in there and like take everything out.
Fuck.
And I don't get them as much now, but when I do get an allergy attack, I'm done. Like my eyes, I can't open my eyes. I'm sinus headache, and yeah, I look stoned basically.
Yeah.
But I'm not. But
Same.
But what I do think is endearing is that she's conscious of it and she's aware of it, even though it's not always in the right context. That's okay. You know, she's 8. I get it. You know, but hopefully. You know, she's saying this now, like, oh, I don't ever want to drink alcohol. I don't ever want to get tattoos. I don't ever want to smoke. I didn't want to do any of that either. None of it.
Welcome to the fucking club, huh?
It's like, but, you know, my wife's tattooed. I'm tattooed. Yes, I smoke. But, you know, again, I was a late bloomer. Even traveling the world, starting at 15 years old, I never had any desire to pick up a drink. I just didn't.
Well, you were busy too. I mean, did you have the
Busy, yeah,
time
and
to even do it?
Busy, but like, you know, I was hanging out with older girls.
Oh, okay.
But still, I thought it was gross.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know,
Same.
that should have been the first red flag. Well, if you think it's gross now, you're probably going to love it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It's funny. It took me right back to a situation where I was with this lady that I was really interested in high school, and this is after high school, and I'm at her apartment, and her friends are sitting there, you know, drinking, and someone was smoking weed and stuff like that, and she was really interested in dating me. I'm like, I will never date anyone that drinks, you know, because I'm still so hurt by the shit my dad did.
Exactly.
You know, fast forward a year and a half, and it's like, somebody needs to drive me home. I just puked, please. So it's all the weed gets smoked. So
Yeah.
it's
I swore I would never, like, I quit smoking for a year, and this was back in '98, and I told my girlfriend at the time, like, you need to quit. I don't want to be around you, and if you do have a cigarette, here's some Tic Tacs. I can't even smell it. And then we broke up, and the day we broke up, I was like, she left a pack of Newports on the kitchen counter. I'm like, yeah, all right. And still, sadly, smoking, but significantly less. I do wish to quit sometime soon, though.
So jumping back, how would you tell your kids to not get tattooed, being so tattooed? Because I don't have any kids, but I might one day, and how the fuck am I going to tell them?
Well, I mean, look, my wife and I have kind of put it to them like, it's your choice. You have to wait till you're 18.
Of course.
Number one.
Of course.
But if you want to do it, I support you 1,000%. I can't not. But if you don't want to do it, I support you 1,000%.
Right.
You don't have to feel like you need to do it. And what I think is cute is now they're like getting these little like press-on tattoos to look like daddy and mommy, and it's awesome. The one thing that I did that I was not cool with, it's not happened in a while, is we'd be at a restaurant and my oldest would take her straw out and act like she's smoking, and I'm like, no, that you need stop that now. Like, that is something I will not condone.
Right.
Tattoos are fine, piercings are fine, smoking is not fine.
Yeah.
You know, but again, you know, she's like, she just dyed her hair for the first time. Both my girls did, and my oldest did purple, like right in the front, and like on like the bottom of her hair. And the other day, she like approached my wife and she said, "Do you think it's too much? Did I do too much?" And my wife's like, "No. I mean, do you love it?" She's like, "I do, but I just want to make sure it's not too much." So like, my wife and I talked about this yesterday. It's like, do you think she's now gonna not want to ever dye her hair again, or she will? I'm like, whatever she wants to do, we're gonna support it, but if she doesn't ever want to do it, that's okay. Because my wife can't dye her hair anymore. She's violently allergic to something called PPD, which is what makes black hair dye black. It's what makes hair dye hair dye.
Right.
When her and I first started dating, she had jet black hair. She's naturally blonde. And she misses her black hair, but she can never do it again. And now being a mom, even though she's helped others find natural, organic ways to do it with no side effects that have the same allergy she does, she still won't do it. She's got PTSD from it. So, just buy a wig. It's fine.
Fine, whatever.
You can get really nice wigs, different colors, switch it up. It's fine.
We can be purple tonight, orange, red, green, blue. Don't matter. Liven it up. So what was the point for you that led you to your first go at getting sober?
So we were it was a Black and Blue tour. It was 2001. And we were in, where was it? Boston. And we had a day off the day after the Boston show. And we were supposed to throw the first pitch out. It was the beginning of the season, Major League Baseball game, Red Sox. We were going to throw the first pitch. So the night of the show, the day before, our manager said, "Hey, do you guys want to do this?" And then we're like, "Oh yeah, let's go do it." That night, I got annihilated and woke up the next morning, got my wake-up call from our tour manager, and I said, "You know what? I'm not going to go today. I'm good. I'm tired, hungover. I don't really feel like going." And he's like, "Well, you guys all agreed to go. I'll let you deal with your bandmates, but I'll let them know." So then Kevin, who's the oldest of us 5, he calls, bitches me out. I'm like, "Dude, I'm not going to go. You guys can go throw the pitch out. What's the big deal? Like, if I'm not there?" He's like, "Because we all agreed to do it." I said, "Well, I'm agreeing not to do it." So my room was set up where there was the main room door and then the bedroom door, which was double bolted. So he broke in the main room door, tried to break into the bedroom, but it was double bolted. He couldn't get in. We exchanged some words. Last thing he said to me was, "I'll never trust you again, and you're dead to me."
Fuck.
So I basically said, "All right, fuck you." I quit. So I called our manager, who was on the road with us. I said, "I want out. Sue me. I don't care. I'm out. I don't deserve this. I'm going to leave." The boys had paid for a therapist to be on the road with me, which I literally only saw in catering every day. I never used her. I never talked to her. So she came to my hotel room with our manager and my security. She said, "Look, you have 2 options. You can go home, see your mom. She's going to probably enable without realizing it and try to be caregiving and, help you out. Or you can go to rehab." And we call it door to door, where you don't go home. You just go from wherever you are and go straight to treatment. So I was like, "Oh, fine." So I flew to Sierra Tucson in Tucson, Arizona. My sobriety date then was July 9th, 2001. And stayed there for 31 days and proceeded to stay sober for 7 years. First 3 years, I went to a meeting every day, and then that got less and less. But I had lost the desire to pick up and use. But now looking back, I was a dry drunk.
Sure.
I was white knuckling it, basically, not knowing any little thing that really pissed me off or set me off could have easily gotten me to relapse, but nothing ever set me off. And then we were on the road. We were in Belgium, and it was a day off the next day. So after the show, everybody was getting lit. Nick and our previous security, who's now since passed away, God rest Q, they got into a tiff. And I was like, "I don't need to be here. This is stressing me out. I'm going back to my room. I just want to hang out with you guys, and you guys are being little bitches. So I'm going back to my room, and I'm going to pop on a movie and whatever." So I pop on a movie. I open up my mini bar, and I'm doing the remote, and I'm doing this. And I grab a bottle, and I pull it out, thinking it's Coke. And it was a Heineken. And I was like, "You know what? Fuck it. I deserve it. I'm stressed out." I had maybe 3 or 4 sips, and then, sorry to say, didn't want to pay for it, so I peed the rest back in the bottle, squeezed the top back on, put it back in the minibar. Didn't get charged, by the way.
There would have been a lot of fans of yours that'd be stoked for that had they have known.
Maybe, I don't know.
AJ's pissed.
There are some randos over the years,
sure.
But
Shit.
so I didn't pick up a drink for about 4 more months. And then was out at a party, had a full beer and a shot. 2 or 3 months again, nothing. So I'm like, "No shit.
Cured.
Maybe I'm fucking cured.
Yeah.
I can do this now. And then probably right around Christmas time that same year, I don't know what happened. Something just clicked, and I went to go pick up a 6-pack, and I grabbed a bottle of fucking rum and polished everything off. And I was like, I want some blow. So I went through my phone, I found people, and off to the races. And literally from that moment, so that would have been 2009. From 2009 until 20 months ago, I've been on again, off again. And I had been to treatment 2 more times after Sierra Tucson. I went to Promises in Malibu twice. And the last time I stayed for 7 weeks. I did extended living where I could come and go as I pleased, but I would breathalyze when I came back, mandatory 5 meetings a week. But what amazing thing came from that is my first day going into extended care, my wife picked me up. We went back to the house so I can get my car. She's gonna hate me for saying this, but we had sex because we hadn't seen each other in 6 weeks, or at that time 4 weeks. And when my oldest is old enough, I'm gonna show her the photo. But before I left, my wife said, is there anything you want me to get from the store for you to, when you get home in 2 weeks? So I said, yeah, this. She goes, do you have any cash on you? I said, yeah. So I gave her $500 bills. And I said, you look so freaking beautiful right now. So she put a blanket over her, showed her shoulder, and she held the money up like I just paid her for. Little did we know, in that moment was when we conceived my oldest daughter, Ava, now.
Oh, nice.
So, and literally about a month out of treatment, we my wife and I went to get our nails done, and she broke the news to me. And she's like, you're not freaking out? I'm like, no, I mean, I think this is awesome.
Yeah.
And I stayed sober through the birth of my child, and, but then back on again, off again, and it was just like.
Is it the stress of getting out there on the road and being away from the family? And
yeah, I think that used to be my number one issue is how can I get away with it, like away from home? And I would set myself up before, like 5 minutes after I walk out my front door in the car service to the airport, I'm already mapping out my first drink. And I've traveled now twice on my own since I've been sober now, and that thought did not cross my mind.
Awesome.
And I'm like, wow, okay, this is new, because I vaguely remember it when I was sober for 7 years, but like I said, I was white knuckling it. I just didn't care. And we can all say, well, had I done the steps then, had I done what was asked, I'd have 20-something years sober today. But I don't. So what I do have is what I have now.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters, is today. I don't know if I'm going to be sober tomorrow. I have no idea. None of us do.
Yeah.
I have today. That's it. Just got to get through today.
So during the time when you're traveling with your band and stuff and you were sober, were they cool about it? Were they supportive, or did you just
They've been very supportive. I mean, they came to visit me when I was in rehab. A couple of them did. A couple of them had other obligations, which is fine. Their thing was, because they didn't really know how to deal with me when I was out, was they, I think, were kind of deflecting in the sense of saying, well, you're not an alcoholic. You just don't pace yourself. And if you're going to drink, let's all drink together. So, okay. Now I feel comfortable to drink with my bandmates, but I'm going to drink like I drink. And then the very next day, I'm getting shit for it. So then I'm like, well, then what the fuck? If you're telling me it's cool to drink with you, but then the next day you're going to give me the 3rd degree, I'm going to go back to being a recluse and drink alone in my room. Or go do something stupid. Like get in trouble with the Russian mob, which I did. On Thanksgiving of all times. Literally.
All right. Now we have to hear a story.
Yes.
I know you got to.
You can't.
So
I got in trouble with the
Thanksgiving.
restaurant.
We were in, it was either Russia or the Czech Republic, somewhere in that area, but it's all the same mob, pretty much. I left Thanksgiving early. They flew a turkey out for us to have like an American Thanksgiving. It was all of us, our crew, and I was just like, fuck this, I'm going out and I'm gonna go get drunk, and we're in probably one of, in my mind, like the most beautiful women in the world. There's gotta be some amazing strip clubs here, like ungodly beautiful women. And my security at the time and I find this one strip club. It's empty. The girls are gorgeous from what I can remember. And they were doing that deal where, you know, you get X amount of dances if you buy a bottle of champagne. Mm-hmm. So apparently I went through 4 bottles of champagne, and then I went to use the restroom. I blacked out in the toilet. My security came to get me. He's like, okay, dude, we got to get you out of here. We got to go. So he's like, you got to go pay your bill. None of my credit cards worked. None of them. And the bartender's like, well, you can't leave without paying. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? My credit cards don't work. So he's like, well, there's ATM down the road. So we go to the ATM. He follows us. Doesn't work. So I'm like freaking out now. So he's got us in the car with another guy in the back with us, watching us. Clearly he's got a gun. He doesn't pull it out, but I know he's definitely strapped. So my security is like, look, I'll deal with this. Take me around. I'll take his cards. I need to get him back to his hotel. So we get me back to my hotel. The one dude waits outside the hotel for like 5 hours. And the hotel's like telling him to leave, and then he says something to them, and they're like, oh, okay. So I call my accountants when it's, you know, morning time here, and I'm like, don't ask questions. I need $5,000.
I was just going to ask
what
the tab was.
Right now. It has to come now to this number. And they're like, okay, but it's going to take a few hours. I'm like, I don't have a few hours. I have a flight in a few hours. I need it now. So somehow, some way, my accountants got it within an hour and a half. They told my security they would not let me leave the country. I would not be on that flight if I didn't pay the $5,000. So, best Thanksgiving ever. Yeah.
Was it good champagne?
I doubt it.
It was like
champagne isn't good anyways.
Champagne's horrible. It makes my stomach hurt.
Horrible.
But
it's like mums. It's like the shit that was in the first Fockers movie. He's like, we got a lot of mums. You know, it's like the $2.
So bad.
And I'm sure you don't remember the women either, because 4 bottles of champagne.
No idea.
Well, fuck, AJ.
I mean,
At least you got a story.
I'm assuming they were pretty, but I have no idea, and yeah.
I'm assuming your security guard was like, fuck you, man. I'm done.
I know.
He's
By the way, after this, I quit.
Well, so like it was his first time out there. Ever.
Jeez.
He's actually a professional DJ, and he's crushing the game right now. And that's what his real love was. But he was a friend of one of our security, and we were down a guy. So he's like, just come out. You and AJ, you're both tattooed up. You both smoke. You guys are going to get along great. And we did. But he didn't know how crazy I could get. And obviously, neither one of us knew where that night was going to lead.
Sure.
And
it's like, are you fucking hazing me or something? Is this a joke, or is this just you?
Both, probably, in retrospect. I definitely put a lot of people in danger a lot of times. I think probably the funniest one I did was was it New Zealand? I think, yeah. Me and a bunch of fans went to get something to eat, and we walked down to the harbor, and we're like, hey, let's go skinny dipping in the harbor. And like me and like 5 girls just strip down naked and jump in the harbor. And a Paul Blart guy comes over. He's got nothing, not even a taser. He's like, hey, you can't get out of there. And we get out and we quickly get changed. And he's like, I'm calling the cops. And we just spray like cockroaches. And I'm like, I snuck back in the hotel, walked past one of my bandmates who was in the bar. I'm sopping wet. He didn't see me. I'm like, cool, I got away with it. The next day, after sound check, we're in the dressing room, and the guys come in, and management come in, the tour manager comes in, and they're like, AJ, can we have a chat with you? I'm like, yeah, sure, what's up? Like, are you gonna tell us about what you did last night? I'm like, I went to eat, AJ. And I'm like, how the fuck did you guys find out? And one of the guys was like, dude, you really think the girls you were with are not gonna like talk about the fact that they were skinny dipping with you?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I didn't think they were gonna tell anybody. And unfortunately they did. But I mean, I got banned from a hotel for a year.
You didn't have the NDAs handy?
No, they were kind of soggy. I got banned from a hotel in Melbourne, Australia for a year for being, it was the first and only time a bartender ever cut me off.
Really?
Like literally cut me off. And back then when I got drunk, my Scottish accent would come out. And I was, thank God this was before the Me Too movement, because I was groping both men waitresses and men waiters with no shame, sitting at blackjack tables. People were leaving because I was so loud. But you know, I guess I had done damage to the hotel room too. Like I had set a pillow on fire from my cigarette, and like, so got banned for a year, which does bad business for the group because there's a great venue there and it's one of our biggest markets. So that didn't go over very well. But we've since been back, and ironically at the same hotel. And I walk in and it gives me the freaking heebie-jeebies. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, but do you like those memories sometimes that remind you of what could go wrong to keep you on target?
Well, now I do the playthrough. Like if there's ever a brief moment of weakness where I'm like, man, I could just use a fucking sip of something.
Yeah.
I play it out now. I go, okay, I'll probably finish that bottle, probably have another, maybe I'll be done. Then maybe later I'll probably have another couple bottles. Then I'm gonna probably say I'm gonna call my wife and I won't, which means something's up. I'll text her goodnight. She knows right away something's up. I'm not FaceTiming her. Supposed to fly home the next day at 10 a.m. Oops, I slept in. I moved my flight to like 4 in the afternoon so I could sober up. Like, but all that happens in like an instant. And then I'm like, nope, I'll take water, please.
Yeah.
Or I'll take my new thing. I'm back on the Arnold Palmer.
Oh, I love Arnold Palmer's. I got
more iced tea than lemonade though.
Yeah.
I don't like the evens.
Yeah, no, I buy the pre-made ones too much. We won't mention who makes it because they don't sponsor the show.
No, there you go. Fireball was my last vice. That was my last.
Really?
That's what took me out.
I was a rum guy.
Fireball's hangovers are the worst.
They are.
They are the worst.
Painful.
For sure. Yeah. It's not like a hangover. Like I need a hospital.
It's like your head is so heavy right here, and it's like because I never had hangovers when I drank, and I was one of those like if I felt sick, I would never throw up, so I'd make myself throw up so I could drink more.
Yeah.
But fireballs were the worst. It was Fireball and ginger ale. That was my thing, and when we had our residency in Vegas for 2 years, that was a rough one for me because, you know, I was there for like 5 days a week. And, you know, it got to a point where my wife would say, you know what, don't even bother coming home on the days off. Just don't, you know, and because it just got bad. And I ended up doing the one thing I swore I would never do in my career, which is perform drunk. And how I got through the show is beyond me. But I was I kept drinking to try to balance myself out.
Right.
Literally 30 minutes up to showtime. And I felt pretty good, but our intro to the show was this 35-foot thing that we came down. And once the thing turned, I was like, I'm looking down at people and I'm like, there's like 10 of you and like 30 of you. Oh shit. what's the first line I gotta sing? What's the first line I gotta sing? And how I made it through, I don't know. Ironically, I think my adrenaline kicked in halfway through and I sobered up quick. But it was not my best day.
Well, I know
Today I'm living my best day, but it was not my best day.
Well, and that's why people that may not understand the one day at a time isn't just about staying sober in that day, but embracing being in the moment and taking in that day and the little nuances, even learning from maybe the shit things that don't go the way we would want or expect. And
I mean, that's the thing now, like, you know, all my imperfect perfections I've come to terms with. My biggest fear in life, well, it was failure. I couldn't fail at anything. I hated it. Now I'm like, okay, that's part of life. You're not gonna be the best at everything. Just do the best you can at one thing, but only focus on one thing at a time. I would also take on way too many things. But now I'm seeing every project I have going on all the way through to the end. And it feels fucking great. Like, I'm proud of this. I'm proud of my nail polish line. Like, it's been talked about and it's actually happening. You guys will be the first person I'm saying this to. And I can't go into detail, but I have a golf line coming out.
Nice.
You know, something I've wanted to fucking do for like 25 years.
Like a clothing line, golf balls, clubs, what do you mean?
All
the above?
All
Nice.
of the above.
Nice.
You know, and then just to be like this past year and a half being home with my kids and like really, really just being dad. Like, I know a lot of parents that are burnt out after the first 4 months of lockdown. Like, get my kid back in school. I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. And it's, you know, and my relationship with my wife, honest to God, we've been together 12 years. This last year and a half, it's bittersweet. It's sad, but it's also so positive. It's been the best year and a half of our 12 years together.
That's awesome.
Period.
That's awesome.
You know?
Where did the passion for nail polish come from? I got to ask, because
You know what? It started 20 plus years ago. Steven Tyler is a dear, dear friend of mine. Kind of my godfather, but, you know, unspoken. Huge Aerosmith fan. And he was the first person I ever saw wearing nail polish as a man. And I was like, I could do that.
Yeah.
And it didn't really come in full swing until after I started getting inked. Once I started getting tattoos, I'm like, then the guy liner came in. I'm like, this is me. This is who I am. Dyeing my hair all the different colors. And I mean, now I've dumbed it down a lot.
As he points at me.
I've dumbed it down a lot. I can't do the hair color thing anymore. But the nail polish this is actually one of my colors that we're actually coming out. This is our newest color, named after my grandmother.
That's cool.
This is Ursula. So
I dig it. Was she into like turquoise and stuff?
That's her favorite color.
Right on.
And like I said before, she was the only like performer in my family, but classically trained pianist, jazz musician. Her first performance, she failed to go on stage. She had the worst stage fright, so she never ever performed. So she was living vicariously through me. And nobody ever forced me to take the path that I chose. I just love to perform. I was an actor before I was ever a singer or a dancer. I did the singing and the dancing because of musical theater.
Sure.
Never in a million years thought I was going to make a living on it. I thought I was going to be an actor.
25 years later.
Yeah.
Right?
You know.
It's been about that long,
28.
right? 28, yeah.
28 years later.
First album was 94?
96.
96,
But
right.
we started in 93.
That's what I thought. So I thought it was early. That's
But
what
for me, I started in 92. So it's been 29 years for me. I helped put the band together.
Oh, did you?
Yes. I'm the OG original Backstreet Boy.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I was curious, how did it come together? Did you kind of just see other, like you think of like a Motley Crue like story? We heard about this guy that rips it on the guitar and this guy or was it just people with the...
So Lou Pearlman, who was the entrepreneur that put us together, there was a thing in Orlando called the Blue Sheet, which was like the classifieds for the entertainment industry.
Okay.
And in there was a big ad that said, looking for 5 Caucasian men, pop duo group, a la New Kids on the Block meets Boyz II Men. So I had just gotten fired from a TV show because I was too tall. That was going to be on Nickelodeon, and then ABC picked it up. There was a show called Hi Honey, I'm Home. And so I get fired from that. I go audition for the Mickey Mouse Club. I get a call back. Don't make the call back. And I'm like, all right, well, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
And I was 14. So I saw the ad, went to Lou's house, auditioned, got signed on the spot. And then Howie I had seen in a bunch of auditions around town, as well as Nick. Howie and I are the two Latinos that are in the group. And Nick, clearly not a Latino. You know, and it was so weird. Like, I would get sent on these auditions for like Latin, and then I show up and it's a bunch of Nicks. And I'm like, of course I'm not going to get the part. Like, what the hell? Like, so I knew Howie from all of that and Nick, so they auditioned first. They both got it. I choreographed the auditions. Howie came with his own choreography. Oh, dear God. I mean, he was doing all this shit. Oh, man. But that was the 90s. That was the thing.
I mean, fuck, we were all trying to do the kid and play, right?
Oh, yeah. And then we had two other members, Charles and Sam. Charles, unfortunately, didn't work out, and he actually went to college with Howie. So we had a big dinner one night, and we nominated Howie to be the one to let him go, because none of us could do it. So Charles was out, and then Sam was still with us. Now we're down to 4. Lou's limo driver, his girlfriend worked at Disney with Kevin. So we meet Kevin. So now we have Kevin and then Sam. Sam ends up quitting because he wants to be a solo artist. And now we're down to 4 again. So we're like, we need a 5th. So do we go back and re-audition all the other kids from the very first round, or what do we do? Excuse me. So Kevin's like, well, I mean, I can make it easier for y'all. I have a cousin who lives in Kentucky. And you know, he can sing his ass off. Pretty sure he's got rhythm. He can dance. So he called up his cousin Brian, who was a junior in high school at the time, and he goes to the principal's office, and he's never been to the principal's office, so he's like, what the fuck did I do? And he's like, oh, it's a phone call for you. He's like, hey, it's your cousin, it's Kev. He's like, what the hell are you doing? You call me in school, you're pulling me out of class, is everything okay? He's like, yeah. So I'm in this group, and I think it could be big. Do you want to maybe fly down to Florida and meet everybody and see if this works? Cool. And April 20th, 1993 was our first performance together, and here we are 28 years later. And
I didn't know they were related.
Yep, they are cousins.
I'll be damned.
From Lexington and Louisville.
What's the, because you play a couple of instruments, right?
I play drums pretty well, piano by ear, guitar by ear. I told myself last year when everything was locked down that I was going to teach myself how to play guitar. Haven't done it yet, but it's coming. But yeah, I mean, I dabble in a little bit of everything. I just try to pick up. I picked up the harmonica last year.
Nice. Well, I could see as an Aerosmith fan, that's a...
Yeah. Well, I was doing a whole country thing solo.
You're right.
And that's what made me want to pick up the harmonica, because I figured if I can't get the guitar right out the bat, at least get the harmonica.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit, and I went back to, I'm about to release my first EP. It's definitely not country. I got out of the country world because now that things got lifted, I would have to start back over again.
Right.
And you really need to be embedded in the Nashville culture to be accepted. They don't care. You could be the most talented singer in the world. If you're not from the South, which I'm from, it doesn't get more south than Florida. Okay? We're more south than freaking Nashville. Okay? We're even more south than Texas. But, you know, it's a very tight to the chest group of people.
Yeah.
So I decided to go back to what my real passion is, which is funk and R&B and soul.
Right on.
So
yeah, it's such an interesting side, having worked in rock and pop and country radio and all that, of how that culture really is between the management, the songwriters, and who they'll work with, and it's just. I mean, you better than anyone. You've worked your way up.
A DJ named Big D?
Yeah.
Out in Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my boy.
Yeah.
He was playing on all my country stuff when it started, and then, you know, decided to go the other way. But he's such a solid
and
dude.
that's kind of interesting thing too, that I think people, you know, they'll go, like I told you, big Motley Crue fan, and then people, when Tommy Lee did things that were more hip hop and
Methods of Mayhem.
yeah, like in that driven.
Love that.
Yeah, and then people, you know, have something to say. It's like, look, just because an artist does this style of music, you don't think that they enjoy or are influenced by other type of stuff?
Like Dave Grohl is a good friend, and I saw this interview he just did recently with Pharrell. I don't know if you've seen it. And he basically says, he goes, look, all of the like guitar licks from Nirvana, even the drums, he's like, I pulled those from like the Gap Band and from like the Temptations and like stuff you would never think was a Nirvana inspiration at all.
Yeah.
And then now you look at what I'm over the moon at what they're doing now with this whole DJs thing. Have you seen this? Oh my God.
I haven't.
So so it's all covers of Bee Gees records.
Okay.
Sung by the Foo Fighters.
Oh, nice.
But they sound like the original record, but a little bit more rock.
Right.
Oh my God, it's phenomenal.
I am a Bee Gees fan. I get shit for love and disco.
Oh, dude, Bee Gees, I'm an Enya fan.
All right, you fucking take the cake right there.
I would be driving down the 101 or down Sunset years ago in my Range Rover, which was 24-inch rims, the whole thing. Windows down, sail away. What's up, y'all? And they're like, window up. What the fuck is with this guy? Because I just love the sound. And it's, especially driving in fucking LA traffic, I want soothing music. Right. I don't want aggressive music.
We were just talking about that. We were at some restaurant where it was a very calm setting, but the music was like, and I'm like, this isn't the right music for where we're at. We need some Enya. I literally just said
that. Like fucking Too Short, Getting It comes on, and you're like, getting it.
I feel like this is a nice restaurant, but the DJ's not quite getting it. You know what?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's a yin-yang thing, but it's wrong.
Which is weird because you had the crowd that was there. You even had at one point like families with their kids that maybe just left, and Too Short comes on. It's and it's not the edited version either.
No, I'm sure.
You know? So it's
Too Short was actually part of my bowling league.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and he's a fucking good bowler, like ridiculous good bowler. Yeah, it was a bunch of a couple of producer friends of mine. They have a production team called The Jam. And they're good friends as well as I am now with Nick Cannon. So all the Wild 'N Out crew, we started this bowling league. And then the first night, I'm like, is that Too Short? Like, what? And nicest guy in the world. Right. And I can't think of his real name, but it's like very.
I can't remember.
Very like. It's kind of like Vanilla Ice, Robert Van Winkle.
Yeah, it's like
something in that world.
It's like Terrence.
Yeah, it's like
whatever.
Terrence, it's like Theodore. But dude gets up, palms it. He doesn't even put in any fingers in any holes, and he's got the hook just like me. But I mean, like his average has got to be like 220.
Fuck.
And I'm like, okay. And like my guys are going against these guys, but it was so much fun.
So how is Nick Cannon and them? Are they all good? I love Wild 'N Out. Emmanuel Hudson is my fucking favorite.
Yeah,
I think that dude is hilarious.
Most of the cast that was part of that league, I don't remember hardly any of their names now because it's been like probably 7 or 8 years.
Sure.
But nicest bunch of people, just so down to earth, just a good squad, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
And like. Even though I don't think anybody was sober, for whatever reason, there was never alcohol at this. Like, because I think everybody really was like taking the bowling very seriously.
Sure, yeah.
Like, because there was like money on the line. Like, not a lot of money, but there was money on the line.
You don't want to lose, you want to win it, no matter how.
Exactly. So I don't want anything that's going to like mess up my perception.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course, my best game ever was a 285.
Holy shit.
I had bowled 69 games that day, and I had drank 2/5 of Jack Daniels that day. So I could barely see the pins, but I was so focused on like standing upright, I just couldn't miss.
Yeah.
I couldn't miss.
I don't remember what my best was. I'm a decent bowler. I don't get out as much as I used to, but
my family and I just went to Bolero over in Woodland Hills the other day. And my wife knows I'm a good bowler. Like my average is between 185 and 210. So she knows. My highest score was an 80, but they didn't oil the lanes. So like I'm trying to hook it and it's going wah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, even with the bumpers up for my kids, I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
This is embarrassing. Thank God no one's here.
Oh, shit. Well, before we wrap up with some fun random questions and leave you with last words of encouragement, we would be remiss being that you have we're sponsored by 5150, and you have a group that you mountain bike with called 5150, which I dig. I got to hear more about this.
Yeah, we picked up mountain biking kind of at the beginning of the lockdown last summer. And it started in just the streets. It was just like a street squad with mountain bikes, all e-bikes, because most of us are in our 40s and up, so our knees are not what they used to be. And then it became small baby trails, then the blue trails, then to black trails, to some double black diamond trails, to now like I know how to take apart my bike, I know what's going on. For my birthday this past January, I bought myself what I consider to be the Bentley of bikes, the Trek 9.9 rail. It weighs about 15 pounds lighter than my previous bike, which was a Bulls, which is a German-based company. And now, like every weekend, me and about 4 to 5 guys will go and do anywhere from 20 to 30 miles.
That's awesome.
Just the most amazing views. Yeah. And, you know, my brother-in-law is a daredevil. He's 35. But he's way better than I am. So he's doing like 10-foot gaps. I'm not doing that shit.
Like that.
One fall and I'm done.
Yeah.
But it's been such a great thing to get outside. And then I've been living where I live for 6 years. Never knew that there's a bike park directly across the street, like with jumps and everything, like full BMX bike park. So I go there like once a week now just to get my jumps better. And You're not supposed to bring e-bikes in there, but nobody really monitors it, and I don't think they care. And I'm not going to the advanced side of the park. I'm doing the intermediate, but it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. We got to get you to come out with us once.
Fuck yeah.
We'll do like a blue trail, which
please
mild. Might be a little rocky downhill, but nothing
I'm good
crazy.
with that because I'll do trail riding. Like we're up near Sonora and stuff, so I'll do trail riding, but you're not going to get me to jump a gap or anything either.
Not me either.
Plus, I got the Walmart bike. I'm afraid my fucking tire would come off on the landing or something. But.
You know, well, what I'll do is I'll let you take out my other e-bike because some of the hills that we do, you're going to want.
You're going to need it. I've never ridden one.
Dude, pedal assist. It's the greatest thing ever made. Once you ride it, you're going to want to get one, and you're never going to go back. You're never going to go analog ever again.
That's going to be great. Mikey's going to show up at the house. So you dropped $5,000 on what?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
it's worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Investment. There's worse things we could spend $5,000 on.
That's
absolutely
true.
Like 4 bottles of champagne
in Russia. Yeah.
Russia.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know, and as for anyone watching, when we talk about that connecting with nature, getting physical activity, here you go. You can throw 2 in 1. Mm-hmm. You know, I know for me, I love it. Like when I hike or get atop a mountain and just be like, because you feel a sense of accomplishment too 100%. Afterwards. You know, so. Yep. Rapid questions, Mikey.
Yes, and so I want to go back to Schitt's Creek for a second because I love that show.
Okay.
My favorite was when Moira needed the picture. She wanted to find the naked picture of herself, and she asked David to help her. And he said, "Okay, well, that's something I never thought I'd hear without having a gun pointed at my head." I thought that was fucking hilarious. Yes. So, with all that being said, who is your favorite Schitt's Creek character?
It's gotta be David is number 1. Ironically, Roland is like a close second.
Really?
Roland shit. I just love Chris Elliott.
I do Chris Elliott.
Remember the baby hands?
Oh yeah.
Baby hands.
Did you ever see Cabin Boy with him?
Yes,
where he gets laid by the nymph and he's like, afterwards I will be a cabin man. Yes. And it's just like fucking Chris Elliott.
Because my wife, before she got her allergies to stuff, she was a special effects makeup artist and beauty makeup artist.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like, she always, every episode that you see Roland, she's like, that is the worst fake gut I've ever seen, but it works. I'm like, yes, it does.
It does work. I would say
Johnny Rose.
Johnny Rose.
I love David,
Johnny
Johnny Rose. He's just, I love him.
Eugene Levy is fantastic.
Yes.
I mean, going back to like Second City TV.
Vacation with Chevy
yeah.
Chase, yeah.
Oh, the first one that hooked me was him and John Candy. Why am I drawing a blank? They're the security guards.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
But that was when all the Second City TV guys were doing stuff together.
Right.
Because you had like the McKenzie brothers with Rick Moranis.
Yep.
Eugene Levy was part of that. John Candy was part of that. And, I mean, classics like The Great Outdoors. I mean, with the...
Sketch comedy was
with
really...
the old 96er. Oh, man.
Sketch comedy was definitely a big thing for me as a kid that got me into acting like third and fourth grade.
I mean, that, Mad TV, Living Color, all that stuff was just such a good thing.
Yeah, I went to a taping for one of the last Mad TVs because I had interviewed Bobby Lee on radio as his last interview for the day, and it was supposed to be 10 minutes, fucking talk to me for like an hour. He's like, you're the only person that knew who the fuck I was. I'm like, dude, I'm a huge fan.
He's awesome.
Come
Mad
down
TV
for a recording.
Every Saturday at 11. I could not wait for it to come on when I was younger. Could not wait.
Yeah, I mean, when my wife and I flew back from our honeymoon, I'm drawing a blank on the actress's name, but she plays Lois. She was Mrs. Kwan.
Oh, yeah. Looking at her face.
Yeah, she was
Alex Borstein.
Yeah, she was sitting next to me and my wife. Like, so it was me and my wife, and then Alex. And my wife had second-degree burns from sun poisoning.
Oh, shit.
From Bora Bora. And, like, Alex just, like, kept talking her off the ledge and, like, trying to make her feel better. I was like, this is the coolest thing. Never putting two and two together that's Lois. Right. And I'm like, because I knew her as Mrs. Swan.
Sure.
So,
she didn't look at you and go, oh, Peter.
Oh, my God.
You guys know, did you ever do, Backstreet ever do SNL?
We did an SNL 3 times. 3 times. We did it back our first time. Sarah Michelle Gellar was the host, Buffy. And we did 2 performances, and one of which was a cappella. Then we went back and did it a second time. I forgot who the host was. And then we did it a third time. And then Howie and I went, just him and I with our wives, to the SNL 40th. Which was phenomenal.
Hell
it was
yeah.
one of the greatest nights of my wife's life. She's the biggest Beatles fan. And to be as close as we are to Paul McCartney made her world.
That would have been incredible.
Made her world. I was going to introduce myself because I never met Sir Paul McCartney. But him and his wife were a little tipsy, and she was dancing for him, and he was dancing for her.
Sure.
So I was like, you know what? Let them have it.
That would be incredible. Paul McCartney, man.
We had Chris Farley's brother Tom on, and he told us a great story about introducing himself to Paul McCartney. It's fucking hilarious. We'll have to share it with you some other time.
He went up to Paul McCartney and he said, you know, being on Saturday Night Live is really going to make your career.
Nice.
That
might just work out for you.
He looked at him like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Well,
Yeah, right?
Like,
words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, another random question. So, your life story gets made into a movie. Who do you see playing you? You're one of the guys who could do it yourself, though. You're like, you got a Prince, Eminem, like
I could, but ironically, we just started talking amongst us as a group about potentially doing something like that down the road at some point, doing a biopic. Us not being in it, but being the producers and telling our story. God, who would I get? I mean, I would love John Krasinski, but he's significantly taller. I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
The only person I could see casting is Lou would have been, but he's passed. Would have been Seymour Hoffman. Would have been great to have played that role.
Well, there was talk of actually Toby, the actor Toby. Can't think of his last name. He was in the first Avenger. Captain America, the First Avenger, he was the scientist that worked alongside of Red Skull.
Gotcha. Okay.
He was supposed to play Lou in a like an A&E Lifetime something.
Yeah.
And he actually kind of looked like him a little bit. He was going to wear a fat suit and everything. God, I don't know who would play me. You know. I can't. It's like I'm trying to picture people that look like me, and I'm like, I can't think of anybody that looks like me. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
All right, sounds good. Shoot me a text, huh?
If you were on a deserted island and you could take one album and one movie, what would it be?
Movie would be Rocky Horror Picture Show. Album would be... I know it's weird, but the Full Monty soundtrack.
Really? What was on that? I don't
many
remember.
Good songs. But my favorite was You Can Leave Your Hat On. Not the original, but the remake by Tom Jones.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't even remember most of that.
I can just do a little striptease by myself on on an island.
You're alone, so
by myself.
who cares?
The fish running away.
Pet peeves. Shit that just irks you.
Uggs with shorts. I fucking hate that. It's the dumbest thing. When I used to live in Malibu, I saw it all the time when it started getting cooler.
Right.
And I'm like, why? You look like an idiot.
I just think of Jason Segel and I Love You, Man.
Yeah,
he had
but
that
like
and
Uggs are winter time, shorts are summer, spring. Why are you in Uggs and shorts? That drives me nuts. And there's another one. Animals dressed as humans. That freaks me out.
So like your pets, we ain't never gonna see them
like wearing
outfit.
pants.
Like, because I'm such a huge animal lover. I feel bad for these animals. Like, before my dog passed years ago for Halloween, I dressed him up like a giant hot dog. He was an Australian Shepherd. And within the first 5 seconds, he was just not amused. I'm like, I just can't do it to you, Oz. I'm sorry, bro.
That's the same with my dog. I put a sweatshirt on her when it's cold, and she just freezes up and just looks at me and won't move. And I'm like, okay, take it.
But your dog's a Chihuahua. Everything.
I'm obsessed with my dog. She's a rescue. I love animals as well, so I get you. I get what you're saying. But yeah, I can't do the sweater. We'll just stay inside.
Animals dressed as humans is weird.
She avoids grass anyways. I took her to a dog park once, and she was just treading on the cement part. Would not touch the grass.
They like to prance. Chihuahuas do.
Oh, yeah.
One more.
She's got class.
She does have class. She is a cute dog. One more before we give AJ the final words of encouragement.
Okay, one more. When you're stuck in traffic, what kind of stuff goes through your head? What kind of thoughts you got when you're stuck?
Am I going to be late?
Yeah.
Even though I always leave way with enough time to get where I'm going, but I still worry.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, lately, and for the first time, I actually stopped. I was with my family. This happened just a few days ago. On the 101, just right by Calabasas, there was like 10 cars on the side of the road, and there was this gap on the side where the metal grating opened up, and it wasn't broken, it just was like not connected. And I was like, fuck, did somebody go off into the ravine? So I said, fuck, I'm gonna stop. So we stopped and I got out, and sure enough, there was a car all the way down the ravine, sideways, wedged between the fence and a tree.
Oh, wow.
Now, the woman and her son, I'm assuming, were out of the car. They were shaken up and whatever. The cop showed up and said, look, if you didn't see what happened, I'm gonna ask you, please go on your way. But I'm always going through my head when I'm driving, like, if I see an accident, would I stop? And or a burning car, would I put my life at risk to save someone? And the answer is yes. Even though I'm a father, and it's like, but in that moment, I think that just the knee-jerk reaction, because I would never forgive myself if I just drove by.
It shows the kind of person you are too.
I would drive by, and then you read about it on the news. Oh, there's 3 fatalities. God, I wish someone was there. I was there, and I didn't stop. That would kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you.
Well, AJ, we like to leave the guests with any last words of encouragement. People struggling, maybe it's addiction, mental health. Usually they obviously go hand in hand, or maybe for a loved one, or just something to throw out some love to people.
There's 2 things I'll say. One, I just got tattooed on my arm, which was a proverb that was, I believe it's a Chinese proverb, which is true victory is victory over oneself. When we finally get to be comfortable in our own skin and we finally battle the demons inside, we could take on whatever's coming at us from the outside. And the other one I first learned when I first got into the rooms of AA was the only way around is through. Don't beat around the bush. You got to go through the happiness, the pain, the ups, the downs to get to the other side. You have to. I've tried to do the Cliff Note version and it's failed miserably every time. So no more of the Cliff Note version. I'm going through it. I got good days and bad days, but today is a great day. So.
Oh yeah. Thanks, man. This has been a real pleasure.
My pleasure.